some rumors talking about a mine coming to our river. Yeah, that just blows my mind.
Please welcome, if you will, our very own environmental attorney, Mr. Ted Warpinski, and his wife Kelly is here with us as well. Thank you, Kelly.
All right, thank you very much. Well, thanks, Dale, for inviting me up here again. And Mark, I really enjoyed watching your documentary. You did a great job, and I look forward to watching it again. So what I'm here to do is I want to give you an update on where we're at in the various challenges that are going on right now with the mining permit. Just a quick note, although I'm not working directly on the actual mining permit that was issued, as you may have heard already, there was a decision issued on Friday by the administrative law judge to basically affirm the decision on that permit. And the message there really is it is a tough road to challenge administratively these permits. So let me tell you what I've been doing and where we're at in the process. We have two different tracks that we're taking. One is a federal action and one is a state contested case proceeding. The federal action right now is at a point where we've filed an amended complaint a couple of weeks ago to further flesh out the details regarding our claim on the federal side. We expect on Tuesday that the federal defendants, which is US EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers, and also Aquila, which intervened in the case, will be probably moving to dismiss our claim, trying to kick us out of court. They are relying upon largely the fact that the judge that we're in front of had previously dismissed a claim by the Menominee tribe. We've tried to do what we can to make our case distinguishable and to address the legal issues that the judge relied upon in making that decision. So we've got some hope there, at least at the initial stage, that we may get a different result. Ultimately, this issue may get up to the Court of Appeals in Chicago to decide, where the tribe's case is already pending. And ultimately, we expect to get some decision out of that, but it's not going to be for months before we're going to know what the result of the federal action is. But the goal there in the federal action is to get the Army Corps of Engineers on the federal side to be the one that's actually reviewing this permit and not the state of Michigan regulators. And so, that's always been one of our primary goals here, is that because of the nature of this river, because it's a navigable interstate body of water that's not solely within the state of Michigan, that it should not be a decision that's decided solely by the state of Michigan. So that is one of our primary issues that we're trying to get somebody to listen to. Right now, basically the federal courts are saying that's not a decision we can review, and the state courts are saying we're not going to get involved in any federal issues. So they're really putting it in a position where no one's stepping up on the court side to say we'll answer that question. But we're going to keep pushing because somebody has to answer that question. So that's sort of the status of the federal action that's going on. On the state contested case side, we've been very active. There has been a lot of we have this contested case hearing coming up the first 2 weeks of June. And there's been a lot of advanced work being done on that. We've filed motions to try to get the administrative law judge to rule now that there's not enough grounds even to go forward. Aquila has filed its own motions to try to kick us out. They're challenging that the coalition doesn't have standing to raise issues in the contested case. And so some of you here may have talked to my associate and help put together some affidavits that we've used to submit in that contested case proceeding to try to establish why there are personal and economic interests associated with coalition members that are at risk from the mine. And so that's all in front of the administrative law judge. We filed our motions against them, claiming that they haven't established as a matter of law enough of a basis to even issue the permit in the first instance. Based upon what the administrative law judge did with the mining permit, I'm skeptical that he will rule in our favor at this stage, but we have to keep making our record every step of the way and establishing how this process has been flawed. So let me tell you a little bit about what our issues are just in the contested case. You can understand what we're focusing on, because there's a lot of issues out there and there's no way to hit them all. You have to really focus your energy on what you see to be the significant issues here. And so what we've focused on are a couple of things. Number one, it has to do with the fact that when this permit application was put out for public comment back in, well, it's December of 17 now. Time flies, doesn't it? As we go through this process. But when they put this out, what Michigan DEQ said was this application's complete, it's ready for review by the public. And at the same time, MDEQ, the Michigan agency, was telling Aquila this information is lacking. So they're telling Aquila, you need more. You got to tell us more about the groundwater impacts. Your modeling is bad. It's not. They've rejected it numerous times, even before going back to January of 2017. They were telling there were problems with this. Yet they went ahead and determined that this application was complete, put it out for public notice and comment. Many of you then commented on that. Many of the comments that we generated were some technical comments that also pointed out these deficiencies in the underlying information that go right to the core of a wetlands permit. Is, first of all, what are the potential impacts from this operation? And really they have not been established. And that was clear back when this was put out for public comment. So one of the arguments we've made is it never should have went out to that point. The whole process has been flawed from that point forward because there hasn't been an adequate opportunity for public notice and comment regarding what's actually going to be happening. What are the impacts that people can comment on? So now we move ahead from there. Well then, as many of you know, and we've talked about this probably before, EPA then did step in and objected to the permit. And that was a good thing. We thought that might be a good sign overall. And they listed a bunch of criteria that had to be met for them to withdraw their objections, and or to have those objections met by the permit applicant. Well, there was a host of them, many of them the same things that MDEQ had been telling Aquila were missing, many of the same things that commenters had submitted to in the permit process, pointing out deficiencies. EPA basically echoed all of that and said those are all problems. You got to address all of those issues before this permit can be issued. And if they don't get it issued within a period of time, then jurisdiction automatically would go over to the federal side. Well, that worked through the process. All of this now is after the comment period, so it's really sort of just between the applicant and the agencies. There's not an opportunity for real public input at that point. And they're going back and forth, and in the middle of that process, this idea of, well, let's put a bunch of conditions in the permit comes up. Aquila raises this, I think, in a meeting that they had with EPA down in Chicago. We can do that with a condition. We can write something into the permit that's going to say, we'll prove all that later. Ultimately, EPA did agree that, well, if Michigan wants to put conditions in, it's okay with us. And Michigan kind of said, well, EPA says it's okay if we use conditions, so we're going to do, so they said it, so each kind of said, well, mom said, dad said, so let's go ahead and do it, kind of a thing. Nobody really, was going to go without the other one. But at the last minute, and this is sort of hinted at in Mark's documentary, the decision was clearly a bureaucratic decision on Michigan's side, because the staff had clearly pointed out time and time again, point by point, how this permit did not comply with Michigan's wetlands law and what the deficiencies were. All those things provide great ammunition for us, but it's these conditions that they put on the permit now that really are the issue, because if they say, well, it's okay to prove it all later, then everybody agrees they haven't proven it now. And the point is you're supposed to prove the things before the permit is issued, not after the permit is issued. And if we were under the federal rules, it's pretty clear that would be the process. But now, because we're in the state contested case process, which has other glitches to it, where basically the record is officially never closed until the whole contested case process is completed. So Aquila can keep trying to put more stuff in to try to convince the administrative law judge now that there's enough evidence out there. We're going to keep pointing out all these deficiencies. We're going to keep riding on this issue that that the federal rules should apply. Even if they're applied by the state, they still have to apply them. They can't just ignore them. And so we've got a multifaceted fight that we're engaged in right now with these folks. You know, the goal here is to stop this at some point, at least make it step back, get it into the federal hands, which will then keep the process going. We want to keep them from completing the conditions of these permit too. I mean, that's obviously they're going to keep trying to prove it that they've got enough evidence out there. We're going to keep working on trying to show that they don't have that proof in the record right now. We have a couple of experts that we're working with on this that we're going to help. We're going to help to try to show these deficiencies. The staff at MDEQ are all going to be testifying at this hearing, so that's a good thing. I mean, and DEQ is putting forward all these people. They're going to have to say what happened, so we expect that to be the case. Like I said, I don't necessarily hold out hope. I mean, that the judge in this case isn't going to ultimately agree with that the permit was issued, just because I don't think he's going to step outside his box and do anything courageous per se. But that's just another step in the process. We don't lose hope, because that is what we go in sort of expecting that as a result at the agency level, that they're going to affirm, and then get to the next point where you actually have an elected judge who's going to sit there and have to make a decision about whether or not they've actually proven it under the law and whether or not federal law is going to apply. So there are steps in this process. We're going to keep moving forward with them. You all need to keep up your activism and support for this effort, and we're going to keep on doing what we can to put this thing to bed once and for all. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Warpinski, give him a nice hand. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Kelly, for taking time from your busy schedule to be up here with us and give us a lot of information. And bear in mind, when Ted mentioned that we've got expert witnesses that are going to be testifying in Lansing, these witnesses don't come cheap. And that's why it's so important that we hold these fundraisers. It's so important that we participate in the silent auctions, in the rifle raffle, and all the things that we do, folks. It's to raise money, and it's not for us. We're a volunteer organization, but we need these expert witnesses, because if you don't walk in with your guns loaded and ready for bear, they're going to eat us alive. So let's all pay attention to that. Help us. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Now's the time to get excited. And if those of you that missed the radio commercials, the tagline is "Get involved before acid mine drainage comes to a faucet near you."
The only swimming we will do is in the tears we cry. We will never again catch a fish or see the eagle fly. So it's now or never to stop the mine.